All right, so welcome into the show today. We're going to be diving into DeFi on Avalanche and a little bit more around Blackhole. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into the show. Joining me today is going to be a good guest. We're going to really break this down with Ellio from EllioTrades, and we'll get into all that good stuff. Ellio, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me, Paul.
Yeah, let's get into a couple of points. I want to just showcase this because in general, some people are fully aware of Blackhole as an idea of what you're trying to do. I want to hear from the guy behind it. Give me a vision of where you guys are heading with all of this. Explain what's up.
Yeah, so the initial concept started with seeing a lot of builder projects, a lot of the products I advise in the market, having a lot of very bad trade-offs when it came to launching their tokens, and were experiencing liquidity issues. So projects that were specifically in gaming and other different, more serious niches, not meme coins or anything, they were saying, hey, Elliot, where should we launch? Should we try to go to the centralized exchange, give them 10% of our tokens? Do you think it's worth it? And then if they didn't want to do that, there wasn't really a good option for them on chain. And so that's where this idea started of how do we drive more liquidity to high quality projects? And that was really the kicker for us, was how do we drive liquidity to high quality projects? And it started with the gaming sector, and now it became much more generalized over time because it became a problem affecting all builder projects as we slipped further into this nihilistic meme coin cycle. And the centralized exchanges started kind of going into like a reflexive cover up and die mode where they stopped listing anything. And it started being confusing where all my projects, I was like, man, these guys have been cooking. They've been building for 2-3 years. Why wouldn't anyone list them? And it sort of became a pervasive issue where I saw that there needed to be a better solution, and the centralized exchanges were not that. And so that's where the basis of the idea started with, how do we solve this problem? Over time, we ended up building what I believe is, and what is the market is showing, is the best technology in the DeFi space and the best model in the DeFi space. So it's a combination of industry-leading technology and a new twist on the model of how you design a token model so that it can actually bring about sustainable long-term revenue growth and eat market share very aggressively while being extremely fair to community. And so that's why we made a very strong point out of not taking liquid tokens for the team, for the foundation. And we did all of this. We essentially gave it all out for free, both locked and unlocked tokens to the community who were supporting the mother project of this, which is Superverse. And so that's how we decided to come to market. And we believe that these models that we've been sort of pioneering here, I believe that those will be proven out to be the correct way to launch. And we're trying to actually show people, here's the way to launch.
First of all, kudos on everything you guys have done in terms of just the design. And absolutely probably one of the, I would say, high-level concepts out there in the DeFi space. And many people, if you don't fully understand what Blackhole is really designed to do is go after these just insane yields. What we have seen, if you look at just a comparison right here of where you guys are coming from, continuing to climb the charts here in overall total value. So, I mean, now you're right there neck and neck with someone like Radium, which is one of the biggest platforms out there on Solana. So all this very good. By the way, if you guys haven't checked out Ellio over on his channel, you can just jump over to EllioTrades official on YouTube. That's his channel right there. One of the allocation things, we pulled up a comparison that you were looking at in terms of a breakdown on allocations for liquidity against holding on other assets in general. Explain to me a little bit about what you were trying to do there.
This is just how I'm investing in the space. And so I see fundamentally that there is a gap in the market, and I see my investment strategy beyond the major categories of like Bitcoin, ETH, Solana. I see the major categories of how altcoins are going to function and operate is that they exist on one side of this barbell, which is a term that I created called the attention liquidity barbell, where essentially you have coins that are attention assets and coins that are liquidity and yield and revenue assets. And I believe that right now we are in the golden age for the liquidity assets, which have finally gotten the green light from the regulators. And now they're starting to actually, if you look at the comments from the SEC this morning, they're saying they want the entire financial system to go on chain. And so now we know that the liquidity side of this barbell is going to rotate into the spotlight, where we've had the attention assets dominate. And I think the reason for that is that you had a bit of a nihilism that infected the industry through a lack of regulatory clarity, through a lack of belief, and I think through a lack of true green light from the legislators. And now that we have that, we're going to see the big money spigots that have been buying Bitcoin, that have been driving this entire run up through institutional capital into Bitcoin, they're now going to go, oh, we're now allowed to buy this DeFi stuff. And by the way, you know who understands DeFi better than anyone else? The people who understand CeFi better than anyone else. They are going to love this stuff. We've become the #1 DEX on Avalanche. Within 72 hours, we became the #1 DEX on Avalanche by TVL. And by 24-hour revenue, Blackhole is now knocking on the door of the top 20 in all of crypto. And that's inclusive of protocols like Tether, like Pump Fund, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
It's now ahead of Uniswap Labs and several other massive protocols. And so what's shown is that this model is designed to attract liquidity, like the name suggests, like a black hole. It's designed to have gravity. As a founder, we only have burned tokens. So there's nothing to sell, right? We don't have the ability to then turn around and go, oh, well, actually the token pumped, we can sell it. We took the pill. We said, if this doesn't work, we make nothing. If this works, we will continue to earn alongside the community in perpetuity. And that to me is the alignment that has been missing from a lot of projects.
I was surprised when we went through the process of actually, testing the product, of how easy it was to get free gas fees. This was Kyle out there talking about Core Wallet deciding to go ahead and cover all the C-chain gas fees. So that in itself was kind of unique, which also helps, I think, attract in general a lot of activity on Blackhole as a whole. You mentioned earlier the lending side of things, and talk to me a little bit more about where you see that going, because that's a huge market that is now starting to get a lot more exposure.
Full disclosure, there's no lending product currently on Blackhole. However, it's something we're very interested in and may potentially pursue in the future. I think it's a good fit. I think this sort of siloing of swapping and lending may make sense to some people. But I think that the cool thing that you're going to see is that Blackhole, you're seeing a product. This is like a day zero product, right? We launched a few days ago. And already it's being treated in this league with the most established protocols that have been out for years. And I've had a chance to iterate for years and years and years with huge amounts of revenue. And so things like borrow lend become very interesting in the future, but it's not a core part of our product. And the only actual protocols ahead of ours with TVL on Avalanche are borrow lend. And they're also not producing the same level of revenue daily. So I think the key takeaway for Blackhole is it's a liquidity engine.
In looking at the Black token, because I know there's a lot of, in general, from the market side of things, there's people are saying, okay, there's going to be sell pressure. Explain to me the argument against that right now.
Right. So the fundamental question is why buy and burn Black, right? That's really the fundamental question. And the answer is you do that if you want to be part of the people collecting the revenue from the token ongoing, right? And if you pull up DeFi Llama and you go to the Blackhole page on DeFi Llama, and you'll see that that's what the revenue looks like, right? So that's the product of all of this excitement, is that revenue's going like this, right? Or let me do it for you guys, it's mirrored. It's going like this, right? And so as revenue continues to increase, that changes the dynamic of how long it takes to actually get your money back from burning. And then after you finally get, once you get to break even, then you're essentially collecting an annuity stream in perpetuity, right, with that DEX. So if you believe that the DEX will maintain market share, then essentially you're getting a non-diluted part of the rewards forever, right? And so that's the model that has been built, is that if you believe in the future of the DEX keeping market share, then you are preventing yourself from dilution, because the burn tokens actually have a rebase reward that prevents you from being diluted by the new emissions. So while there may be sell pressure coming from the emissions, there's also excitement about the long-term benefits of being on the burn token side. And those two things are balancing forces.
That's an interesting take on that, because I think that gives people a little bit more clarity on how this would work in terms of, especially around the token side of things. In terms of the way that projects are brought on board, what is the process? What would be next for you guys coming on board to the platform?
So you're talking about which tokens we're looking to have be listed on the platform? We're very interested in giving people what they want. So if they're benefiting the protocol, recently there was a new token added, which was from Hyperliquid, which has been doing insane volume over the last 24 hours and in contributing massively to the upside of the revenue. And so those are the types of interesting opportunities that are coming in all the time. And quite frankly, obviously, I don't want to say too much, but I mean, everyone in the industry is looking at this right now, because I don't know of a DEX that's taken market share this fast. Certainly, there's not any examples that I can point to that have had this type of arc of success. And so we're, everyone's kind of coming in trying to say, how do we participate in this? So what I think is very interesting is that we purposefully did not raise a dime for this project, right? There was not a single penny raised. We funded the project internally at the Superverse Foundation funded the project. We launched it just to the community that existed, airdropped it all, and we started with like $1 or $2 million of our own capital and liquidity, and the thing ballooned. And I think it's a testament to the technology stack and the model. Also, giving the community the ability to be excited about something that doesn't just immediately come like get pulled out from under their feet. And that's another thing that we took extreme care to do. Was every single big launch has just been this big letdown, and it's just been this big sort of meat grinder. And so the only way to get around that is to chop out the more parasitic entities and say, you know what, we're not doing this. We're doing this for the people out there who have been watching the YouTube videos, who have been in the community, who have been holding the coins. Let's just give them something and let it do its thing.
What about when you look at cross-chain game tokens? You think Myth, you also look at Star Atlas, obviously virtuals, which is going to be a big play in this. What about those potentially coming into the platform?
Yeah, no, I mean, as you know, because of Super, we're just integrated into, nearly every major crypto gaming ecosystem. And I have great relationships with almost every founder in crypto gaming. We are very, very excited. And hopefully I put out a tweet yesterday or the day before saying, I think the crypto gaming bottom is in. That doesn't mean we're going to go into hyper mode today, but I think we've seen the worst of it. I believe that we'll start to see, good wins being racked up in the crypto gaming space going forward. And I'd love to see Blackhole essentially become a liquidity engine for those games. But on long term, essentially you'll have a crypto gaming meta asset that is being used in dozens and hundreds of games eventually, that has a natural revenue and buyback mechanism built in to help aid with distribution. And so those are the things, like, I believe that Super can help fix this some of the stigma against crypto gaming tokens by saying, hey, look, if one game fails, you're not out. You're not on your you're not high and dry. If 10 games fail, you're not high and dry. This ecosystem as a whole, the idea of crypto gaming is going to succeed. And there's very exciting technology that is going to partner with, and having that revenue from DeFi backbone puts Super in a position to spread and propagate throughout gaming in a way that no other ecosystem can. And so right now the focus is on Blackhole, it's on the DeFi, but over time people will realize that this is a true symbiotic design, right? Where in order to benefit, Super Foundation does not need to sell any black tokens, whereas normally you would. But because there's a true revenue engine built in, the revenue being created by the DEX can then be used to benefit that ecosystem. And it took the place of a VC investor, right? Because it's not a VC, all right? So we didn't use any VC capital, so we didn't have to allocate to them. So now we have a chunk that might have otherwise gone to extractive investors or uninterested investors that are self-interested. And it's, again, going back to community, right? In a different way. But that's the other thing that I think people don't quite understand yet, but they will in time, is that the entire thing we've done has been, hey, how can we make this thing a gigantic community engine and also successful and also survive as a company? Like, we tried to balance the realities of the world with how do we also deliver just like massive wins, not just a single moment of a win. Like, a lot of times an airdrop is like, okay, thanks, goodbye. Like, I sold, like, cheers, and then it's done.
All right, so let's talk about Avalanche in general in terms of stablecoin volume. This has been something that has started to decline. Why do you think that is right now?
Yeah, so Avax needed a new dose of new blood, and that's part of what was the interesting opportunity with Avax. I saw a real opportunity to bring a cultural moment to Avax, which is, I think, some people could say it's still, the price still hasn't moved much from the bear market lows. I see that as an opportunity, right? Because I think as it starts to accelerate, that's essentially just built-in growth for Blackhole. And in my opinion, Avax is definitely underrated as far as the tech stack, and just needed this dose of excitement, right? It needed this dose of new blood. And what you've seen is, because of Blackhole, week over week, day over day, Avax has led, of all chains, new inflows into their protocol and new TVL inflows. It's actually been incredible, the amount of growth of wallet usage, new users on chain, and straight TVL inflows. And that's precisely what I was trying to show, is that when you build a true proper liquidity engine, the barriers of chain don't actually matter as much as you think, because it's pretty easy to get money from one chain to another if you have the excitement there. Now, as far as why things were decelerating, I mean, there just wasn't a lot of reasons to bridge to Avax over the last couple of years. And now Blackhole has provided one. And we're hoping we can attract more builders to also follow on. And that's already happening, right? There's a lot of projects on Base saying, hey, how do we jump over? There's a lot of projects on other chains saying, wait a second, this is actually where we want to be. This is where the heat is right now. Let's get over there. And how do we get involved? And so the amount of outreach or inbound that we've taken because of Blackhole and its success is pretty incredible. For example, a project can put an incentive on their own liquidity pool in Blackhole, meaning that they want to incentivize the burn token holders to vote some of those new Black to their pool. And we saw a project put about $100,000 in 1 week on their liquidity pool. And they ended up with a liquidity pool of over $4 million in TVL in their liquidity pool. So the multiplier on, and by the way, their token went way up in value, right? So because people were buying the token to then liquidity, to then LP with it. So the amount of advantages for projects who are taking advantage of the toolkit that has been provided by Blackhole and the excitement around it, they are having their own success, and it's become a platform for other projects to succeed. It's become like as described, it's become a liquidity engine, right? Where it can drive liquidity to projects who work within the ecosystem and the system.
Well, I think you've created somewhat of a flywheel effect in reality.
Yes.
I mean, you've gone into a model that benefits both the community as well as the project itself. So obviously the revenue numbers are clear. One thing in reference to Avalanche, big partnership they announced. I'm going to go to a clip. This is the Visa clip kind of talking about the news. Take a look.
We recently expanded our capabilities by adding a euro-backed stablecoin, EURC, to additional regulated stablecoins, USDG and PYUSD. We are also adding support for 2 additional blockchains, Stellar and Avalanche, enabling us to support 4 stablecoins running on 4 unique blockchains, representing 2 currencies that we can then accept and convert to over 25 traditional fiat currencies across the world for our clients within our settlement infrastructure, as we build out our stablecoin treasury stack for settlement and money movement flows.
Okay, so all good news for Avalanche being included here. What do you make of this news? Obviously, this is bullish for, I think, the Avax community, but in general, starting to see traditional finance starting to shift into blockchain.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I think you can remove the speculative lens right here and say, okay, let's not talk about alt season. Let's not talk about, DOGE going to $3. Let's not talk about retail coming back. Let's not talk about a repeat of 2020. Let's just focus on what's happening today. What's happening today is Wallstreet is very interested in crypto. They are so thirsty. They cannot quench their thirst with $100 trillion of Bitcoin. So what we know is that the appetite is there and it's only growing. Are they about to buy into the ETH and DeFi narrative, hook, line, and sinker? Right. And my theory is absolutely. Avalanche is actually headquartered in New York for a reason, and they've had a strong focus on institutions since the beginning. Now, that is also not very sexy to the retail audience, but it will pay dividends as essentially the regulatory green light gets passed, and all of a sudden institutions can start adopting this technology, and they can start buying it through their hedge funds and through their investment banks and really participating. You're going to see the value of these stablecoin moves, of the institutional backing. You might not see that in the FOMO prices of Avax today, but in the long term, that's the bench that we're working with. And as those players, who many of whom didn't even know about our launch, right? Like a lot of these institutional backers or the participants in the Avax ecosystem that are institutions, they're just finding out about how this DEX became the biggest DEX on Avax within 72 hours. They're going, how did we not know about this? Why wasn't this on our radar? And the answer is that we didn't do an investment round, right? We didn't do that. We didn't do the usual thing. Well, you weren't on the roadmap.
I mean, you weren't on the map, really for a lot of what is traditional finance. I think that's the interesting thing that you guys have brought to the table is you've almost created a new model in which especially blockchain companies, DEXs, all sorts of projects can now go to market. This is probably a nightmare for VCs. If you think about it, they don't have that auto stamp that they can go out and just say, hey, we're going to start funding a bunch of gaming companies. Speaking of that, I want to go to one more clip here. This is CNBC.
Genies is partnering with Unity, a popular game development platform, to bring AI-powered smart avatars into the Unity editor that will allow users more chances for personalization.
And so we're super excited to be partnering with Unity to be integrating our entire avatar tech stack into the Unity editor, which gives access to the biggest game developer community in the world, as well as the biggest game creation company in the entire world. They power 70% of mobile games today. Characters are going to represent the new UI and UX of the internet.
Meaning that if somebody creates an anime experience, a Pixar experience, a hyper-realistic experience, a more character or stylized experience, they're all compatible with each other, right? And so it's been a 5-year process. It started in 2019 to be able to build out this tech stack.
All right, so one of those projects that's riding on Flow, but the point I'm getting at is that's CNBC talking about basically Web3 gaming, which is a huge leap forward. And maybe to your point is we're going to see a lot more adoption coming in from mainstream Wall Street very soon. As well. What do you think about PENGU in general when you look at Luca Netz and what he's been able to do? Because that's a good example of another great founder that's been able to explode onto the scene. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I should say full disclosure, I am an advisor at PENGU, and I'm a big fan of Luca and everything he does. We chat regularly. I think Luca's kind of on the Mount Rushmore of founders. The way that he's weaponized like the Giphy and social media extrapolation and propagation of the Penguin IP is really brilliant. You know, it's truly brilliant, and he sees the game differently. I think he's playing on a different level than other people from that perspective. And I think that PENGU, if you think that meme coins are a proxy to attention, then I think that there is very few people who understand how to captivate and consistently create attention value in their IP like Luca. You know, I think that, you know, with respect, I think that some of these more traditional lenses of like, oh, CNBC's talking about this project and this integration into Unity. I mean, it all feels so divorced from community and so divorced from like the feet on the ground perspective of like what matters to these users. And I think that you're still not seeing that talked about enough, which is what a founder needs to do is put themselves in the position of the person holding their asset and say, what does this person want?
Right.
And I think that that's a question that is way too scary for most founders. But in the end, if you stay like firmly rooted in that question of what does my community want from me and this project, and you are very real and very brutally honest with yourself, and you operate from that set of outcomes and say, okay, if I'm a community member, I'd like to see this, that. I mean, that is where you actually get community that it's the difference between a project and a movement.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want to play a clip to kind of back that up, because this is Luca kind of talking a little bit about, and to his point, and to your point, I think in terms of what Luca's been able to do, it's almost like he's the Mr. Beast of crypto now. Take a look at this clip.
PENGU, being the people's coin, will flip Doge. It's impossible to refute because there hasn't been a singular entity that has been more generous than us over this cycle, and for the cycles to come. That beats Doge. Clip that and distribute that.
Q4 will be absolutely mania for the Pudgy Penguin ecosystem. We're a Q4 company. We always have been in the cold, winter, holiday seasons. So wait for Q4. I think we will have the biggest mobile crypto game of all time that's launching in Pudgy Party. I have an incredibly monster swing at that. I'm not going to share it. I'm going to keep that one close to the chest. But if you thought Walmart was big, I think I got something bigger.
Okay. I like that. I like Luca's brashness there for sure. What about PENGU? Come on, man. We got to get something here. PENGU coming into Blackhole.
I love the way. Oh, well, I mean, look, I mean, right now we've only done EVM-based coins. That's the only thing holding us back. But I mean, look, let's just say I'm optimistic. And in the end, you know, what I love is when you have a founder out there that beats the drum. And the reason why I think people like my projects is that I am the same, right? And Becker as well. And we're out there saying, look, we know what the hell we're doing and we're going to do it. And that's what people want to see. And that's what creates these exciting moments of transfer of value to the community. And what Luca said there was very important. I'm the most generous, which is why we'll win. And that's what I believe has been the theme of what I've been saying to you is the point of this is to be the most generous, right? And so that's what Luca said there, I think is really important. By the way, Mythical, the partner who's executing on the gaming front for Pudgy, is one of my favorite projects in this space, and their metrics they've been putting up on FIFA Rivals and NFL Rivals is the light in the darkness for crypto gaming right now. And John over there, just shout out to John over at Mythical, someone I talk to actually very regularly now, and we have some really interesting plans coming. I just absolutely love that project. And so not only am I bullish, but I actually think that what they're doing over at Mythical with the gaming side is absolutely innovative, and it's absolutely next generation. And the reason why they've been able to crack the cookie is because they've been doing it for almost 10 years. They launched their first Web3 game called Blankos in 2018, and they've been at it for forever, and they've figured out where the pitfalls are, and they've worked around them, and they are now figuring out how to accelerate with the Web3 model. And this is where I think the big missing piece for Web3 gaming is you don't have a model to copy. If you look at Facebook gaming, essentially once you had once you had Farmville and Mafia Wars, you had a model that worked, and everyone just goes, okay, we'll copy that model ad infinitum. Once you had Fortnite or like this free-to-play gaming model come out for Web 2 gaming, you're like, oh, what we'll do is we'll sell the battle pass and the skins and the this and the whatever, and we'll give the game out for free, and it made bazillions of dollars. People go, boom, that's a model. We'll copy the model, copy. And so there's a model in Web 2, there's a model in mobile gaming, there's a model in Facebook gaming, there's a model in free-to-play gaming. Web3 gaming is still finding its model where you go, oh, this works. This benefits the token holders and the gamers and everyone, the trilemma, blah, blah, blah. So now you actually have a model where you're starting to see things really gel. And I think Mythical's on the forefront of that. And they're not getting enough credit for it, but I'm going to help fix that.
All right. Listen, I think that's a big deal because you're right. Maybe this is a new cycle in terms of Web3 gaming. Maybe the cycle that needs to be the catalyst for this going forward, if in fact we do see more founders go in this direction. Hey, Elliot, it's been great having you on today. Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right, you guys, if you're not in the Diamond Circle, jump in right now. It's our place where we get a direct connection to you, and it's absolutely free. Click the link down below. Follow me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.